My name is Madria Stephen, and I am going to share my experiences in the Bachelor of Nursing after degree at the University of Lethbridge. I was bullied a lot in the cohort. I reached out to instructors and was not supported. I was told it was up to me to fix the learning environment myself, and I was bullied by some instructors. I kept reaching out for support throughout the course of the degree when the bullying increased and got worse over time, and I was not supported. I was offered support verbally, but it was never delivered. These meetings were never put on my student record, and the paperwork that I brought into the meetings was thrown away. Now the people who I had those meetings with have either retired and moved on, or they claim to not recall such a meeting at all, which is odd because when I talked to them in person, they did remember. Now, I had withdrawn in my final semester because it just was so toxic. It was horrible, and I was stressed time and time again. That was undue stress. The course load and the course content themselves were never a concern. I have 2 other degrees completed before taking this BNAD degree, and therefore I have a good track record with accomplishing academic things successfully and in good standing. I also have a myriad of certifications as well, and it's because I love learning. So the workload was not daunting to me. It's tedious and it's domineering, but that is to be expected. What was daunting and toxic was the environment, the learning environment and the workplace environment. The role models that were supposed to be role models were not actually role models. They walked the walk, but not really with integrity. They didn't follow their own advice. The expectations placed on students are different than what is expected of preceptors and or other nurses and or especially the instructors. In preceptorship, the first preceptorship started off really well, but it took a downward turn. There was some differential treatment and contradictory statements and contradictory things. I reached out for support to the appropriate people, was badly mistreated. Very, 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 very different treatment between me and the preceptors. The instructors 100% favored the preceptors, and really talked differently, talked down to me, and dismissed anything I said. A program enhancement plan was put in place, which I welcomed because I thought it would keep everyone accountable. I thought it would be positive. I viewed it as supportive, but it ended up being punitive. I was ultimately dismissed from the program because they accused me of falsifying and duplicating a document. This document is a personal reflection, part of my own learning plan, which is an ongoing document, and I had submitted it and resubmitted it before the due date online. When I mentioned that in the termination meeting, it was dismissed, and the answer was that I could duplicate or falsify patient information, which is actually anything anyone can do at any point in the career. So I did not know that preceptorship grades could be appealed, but I emailed the dean at the time, just an email stating my concerns and that I felt it was not fair. I utilized the support of student union, which were basically silent witnesses. And the dean agreed, okay, this was not fair. You can redo your preceptorship at a location of your choice. So after withdrawing in my final semester because of the bullying, I was placed with a new cohort almost a year later. And it was a beneficial change. I finished without a problem, no need for external support. I really liked my clinical instructor. She was great. And finished strong, which just goes to show that people make the difference. I chose that same unit for my second preceptorship attempt because it had finished that well. with my clinical instructor and the new cohort. It started off well. I had a very positive midterm feedback. Everything was going well. The PEP that followed me from the first preceptorship attempt was said to be followed without difficulty. Keep on the right track. You'll succeed. We'll get you there. That was kind of the summary feedback. Of course, there were a few things to work on, as there should be as a student RN, especially having gone through what I've gone through with the lack of confidence and everything. But nothing critical. It was just work on speed during med admin, especially in the mornings. Prioritize your own patients, because I was always helping other nurses. Anyone that needed it, I would help them. And just working, like keep practicing so that you're more confident in answering questions and things like that. But I was accruing the skills. I was practicing things in the presence of my preceptor. I was even getting bold enough to ask questions again. After preceptorship midterms, which were very positive, I had misplaced the midterm evaluation that my preceptor had filled out and given to me after the meeting. She had printed it off. The instructor needed some information because she didn't record the meeting or take notes, and she was demanding it from me. Now, I looked all over the unit for that paper and could not find it for the life of me. I emailed the dean expressing concern about being terminated again for that reason. He basically responded to not worry about it, that a missing document could surely be handled. The next workday, I got injured on site in the presence of my preceptor, who needed help with a patient that was not in my care. She yelled for me to help, so I reflexively lunged across the bed to try to support the patient, because there was no room on the other side to actually do that properly and safely. Somehow I twisted my knee. My walking changed drastically within about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I had tolerated it quietly, going about my business, taking care of my own patients, helping other nurses as was needed. And I couldn't fake it anymore. My walking had changed. I looked in the staff room for ibuprofen or an ice pack. There was nothing. I looked in my locker, didn't have any. I looked on our app. It tells you what the wait times in Emerge are estimated to be. The first time I looked, it was 5 hours. The second time I looked, it was 3 hours and 45 minutes. That was at the end of the shift. So when it said 5 hours, I thought I still have 4 hours left of this shift. I approached the preceptor. I asked her if I could go home early because I was in a great deal of pain and I couldn't walk properly. She said no because she didn't want to make up the hours later. I told her I had looked for ibuprofen or an ice pack and there was none to be found in the staff room. She told me to take a patient's PRN, a prescription for Tylenol. That is medical malpractice. That is illegal. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I asked her, doesn't that break a protocol? She said, they're there to take. And I was horrified at how indifferent she was. There was no reflexive recoil. There was no, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. She was cool as a cucumber. It was odd. I asked her again, doesn't that break a protocol? She said, it happens all the time, just take it. And I asked her a third time, doesn't that break a protocol? She didn't answer. I told her I didn't want Tylenol because Tylenol masks the pain. I needed ibuprofen because my knee was swelling. She argued with me to say that Tylenol is given for pain too, and I said, yes, it is, but it doesn't treat swelling. It masks the pain. So in the moment of injury and in the pressure of the situation, I did two things. One, I referred to the mechanism of action of each of the medicines. I didn't word it eloquently, but I was in a great deal of pain and I was in a very, very stressful situation with high pressure, fear, and intimidation because of a pending termination for any reason. Two, I acted ethically. I refused to take the patient's medicine despite the pressure of the situation. The preceptor seemed angry. She seemed very irritated and she was very rude. She made me bend down to pick up pieces of paper or little candy wrappers off the floor, so I had to bend the knee. I was in evident pain, like on the way up and down. all the time. Each time she would make me plug in a device and no, unplug it. So I'd unplug it, no, plug it back in. And like that several times within a minute. And then she just disappeared. She was not present at all while I cared for 8 patients without the ability to walk properly. Even the patients were like, "You're in pain, you should go home." And I was like, "I can't." And they're like, "Where is your preceptor? Where's the other nurses? They should be helping you." And I said, "They're busy. I'm just doing the best I can." And that was it. So they were kind, very kind. At the end of the shift, the preceptor came over. I had to chart standing up because it really, really hurt to sit or to bend the knee at all. And I was having trouble walking. Like my walking was drastically slow. It was shocked to me because I don't pretend to be unwell. I enjoy being mobile. I enjoy being healthy. I enjoy being active. I'm a triple certified fitness specialist. I enjoy being active and helping people get there. I'm not bragging, I'm saying that because this is a part of who I am. I like being healthy. And just the walking, that was crazy. Like I was limping, very slow at walking. My knee hurt so much and there was nothing I could take or do about it because of the fear of another termination. At the end of the day, I was taking a long time to do charting. And the preceptor kind of huffed over, flipped back and forth between pages and wrote things out. And I thought it was odd that she should be charting at the end of the day because I didn't see her present at all among the patients that I was caring for. So, but she filled it out and then she left at 7 o'clock on the dot when the shift ended. And nothing was said to me about WCB or OHS standards or policies or procedures. She just left. The next day, I was summoned to a meeting at the university as soon as possible. I went in and I had a student union rep present. Again, just a silent witness, not an active advocate. And I was terminated. They terminated me under the guise of me not knowing the difference between Tylenol and ibuprofen. When I tried to say that when the preceptor told me to take the patient's PRN for Tylenol, I was asking for ibuprofen because it treats swelling. It was completely overlooked that the preceptor told me to do something illegal. It was completely ignored that I was injured, even though I showed up to the meeting injured. And no WCB, no OHS standards or policies or anything was even mentioned to me. I didn't know that a preceptorship grade could be appealed. But the instructor in the meeting was involved in my other termination. And things were said like, "I could pass you, but..." And just how did you pass your classes? They were my instructors that passed me in some of those classes. And just very condescending things like that. Anything I said was twisted and used against me. There's no way I could not know the difference between Tylenol and ibuprofen because I would not pass my exams, courses, or clinicals before that if that was the case. I was supervised with my patient care until the final preceptorship, round 2. So it was very unfair. To me, it seemed like the preceptor had met with the instructors and they had a preset idea of what should happen, and that was that I'd be terminated. So I was terminated and I went to treat my own injury. Doctor wait times were estimated to be 3 weeks. I was in the process of moving. I had a friend whose house I went to right after that shift. I bawled my face off at her house. And I asked her for certain things and she got those things for me to treat the knee. Very quickly, I got the ibuprofen, I got the Tylenol. She lent me a scarf because my things were all packed up to move. I tightened it around my knee with a gel ice pack. And she also provided a cream that was like for sore muscles and inflammation. And she also lent me crutches as well. And she also rounded up the support to help me move because I really couldn't walk. So that is a very good friend. And I'm so lucky to have had her help at that time. Having learnt of a preceptorship grade appeal opportunity that was vaguely mentioned when I approached the dean in early October of 2023 regarding this, I decided to pursue that because filing complaints doesn't actually make a difference. I was told by the student union president that multiple complaints were filed over years towards the same instructors that were involved in both of my unfair terminations, and yet this is an ongoing process. That student union president also stated that they had just finished helping yet another student in the nursing degree fight to redo her preceptorship elsewhere. The SU president said that alarms were ringing in her head and she was wondering if it really is always the student's fault. My answer is no, it is not. In fact, probably more often than not, it is not the student's fault. The instructors and the preceptor did not act with integrity. There are unrealistic expectations placed on students in that a student is treated badly and expected to thrive. And if a student speaks up like I did, they go through horrible, horrible things many, many times. And the people who are actually responsible bear no consequence. The student handles all of the consequence, and they're the ones footing thousands and thousands of dollars of bills into this program. I invested into the program based on what the university promised, and that was a safe and healthy, ethical delivery of a specific education. Well, the course content was great, the workload was appropriate, the hands-on clinical hours were great. However, it is the university's responsibility to ensure that I learn in a healthy learning environment, and I reached out for supports and did not get it time and time again throughout this degree, and especially the preceptorships. Now, since October, trying to appeal this decision and reaching out to the dean, my emails have been left unanswered. My questions have been unanswered. I have been offered some support, marginal support, and then it's not delivered. So I had to comb through all the policies in February of this year because I was waiting on other people and asking them, sending reminders that said that they would collect certain information or help me in specific ways, and they didn't. They ultimately said it and then didn't do it and left me hanging for months. So I combed through all the policies, and that has been a very, very good learning experience because I realized that my basic human rights were taken away very many times. I have proof of emails gone unanswered and vague responses. I have 62 emails, maybe even more, that I screenshotted. There's more that I chose not to because that is lengthy in itself. I combed through all the policies that I could that I thought pertained to this particular situation, and I described how these policies were not followed, how the university let me down, and I still don't really know what to do because nobody is helping me out. Nobody is sitting down with me and saying, this is how it works. This is how long it takes. If they don't do it within this time, this is what you should do. So now here we are 5 months later and counting since early October 2023 when I started this process to the best of my ability. And I have formally submitted the grade appeal and the supporting document to the dean as he had specified with modifications. The deadline is February 7th. That's when the dean finally met with me to tell me how I could modify my grade appeal letter and how to submit supporting documents that would be helpful. So on the deadline itself is when he actually met with me, and he only responds when someone else is tagged in the emails. As far as emailing and things like that, he has sent me some emails regarding job opportunities and looked at my resume, but he said that would be off record. And he responded better with that than with the grade appeal itself. Any questions that I ask, even regarding just a timeline or a clear meeting date, has been ignored. Not answered clearly at all and ignored. So I am reaching out for support. Please share my experiences everywhere that you can because I believe that donors should know how all students are treated, not just the sunshine students of the month. And also, more importantly, I believe that this should be shared because students have a right to know what their rights are. They have a right to know how they could be treated. I am a well-educated Canadian citizen woman with a string of academic achievements and an excellent track record. My track record is now tarnished with 2 unfair terminations that the university has put on my permanent record. I did not deserve these terminations. I acted ethically, and I had to deal with negative consequences for that time and time again. That is called moral injury. I went to the appropriate supports many times, was offered support verbally, but it was not delivered. I was hurt for going to the appropriate supports. That is called sanctuary trauma. I have been terminated and mistreated many times without consequence to the people who are actually responsible. The fact that this has happened without consequence many times leads to the fact that there's a higher probability of this happening yet again. That's called a frequency bias. The university has stated that my only option moving forward is to redo the degree. I find that shocking and punitive because I passed those classes with A's and B's despite the toxic learning environment. I worked for those marks. I am capable, and I have a track record that proves my capability in succeeding academically. And I appreciate hands-on work, and I volunteered for everything in those clinicals to learn how to do things by practice, not just by hearing or seeing. As for preceptorship, the required hours are 350 hours. I worked 372 hours between both attempts. I have completed the required hours, more than the required hours. And because both terminations are unfair, I don't think I should have to redo anything because I acted with integrity. I protected the patient by not taking their meds. I acted right by going to the appropriate people as a student needing support, and I was not treated as a student. I was not supported. I was not even treated as a person who has been recipient of these things, that has a mind, that has a body, that has emotions, that has hormones, that has a mind capable of perceiving things correctly. Students should know what this place has done. And the University of Lethbridge has shown no accountability. They show they just show extreme indifference to have treated a student this way. I paid thousands of dollars, but not to be treated this way. And it is the money of the students that makes the university go round. So please share my story, share my experiences on social media, text it to people, let people know. I really believe that the University of Lethbridge should be held accountable, but they won't answer my question of who keeps the university accountable. When I ask that, it's dead silence and they look away. Well, somebody out there has got to keep the university accountable because until a change is made, this is going to keep happening to students, and I am living proof that this can literally happen to anyone, no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you please the preceptors and do everything they say, and no matter the marks you get, no matter how educated you are, and no matter whether or not you're a Canadian citizen or not. This could happen to anyone, so please help me to protect students. Students are so vulnerable and they matter. Help me to protect students. Share my story. Thank you.